let me tell you something that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. India is coming for the crown. And it's not doing it by playing a different game. It's playing America's game. And it's learning to win. Now, before you roll your eyes or click away, I want you to hear me out. Because if you understand what India is doing right now, you won't just see the future, you'll understand how to prepare for it. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, a policymaker, or just someone trying to stay relevant, this speech could reframe your entire mindset about what power, innovation, and global leadership actually look like in 2025. Because here's the truth. India isn't waiting to catch up. It's moving ahead, silently, strategically, and unapologetically. For decades, the world viewed India through a narrow lens. It was the land of outsourced customer service, IT support, and back-end code. A place where the grunt work of globalization got done. It wasn't sexy, it wasn't strategic, it was useful. India was the world's back office, a cog in someone else's machine. But not anymore. We are witnessing a historic shift in global power dynamics, and it's happening in real time. India is no longer content with just supporting roles. It's stepping into decision-making, direction setting, and game-changing positions. The country that once answered the phone is now calling the shots. Let's talk facts. Look at who's running some of the most powerful companies in the world. Google, Microsoft, Adobe, IBM, Palo Alto Networks, MasterCard, PepsiCo. These global giants are or have been led by Indian-born CEOs. This is not a coincidence. It's a trend, and trends don't lie. But this isn't just about a few individuals at the top. It's about a mindset shift that's happening across the board, in startups, in policy, in innovation, and even in geopolitical strategy. Why now? For one, India is young, with a median age of 28 compared to 38 in the US and over 40 in China. That youth isn't just about energy. It's about vision, drive, risk appetite, and a complete rejection of limits. This generation doesn't want to be told to wait their turn. They want to lead. And they're building companies, launching products, scaling platforms, and entering rooms their predecessors could only dream of. And here's the secret sauce. India doesn't just mimic the West. It adapts, reinvents, and scales ideas in ways no one else can. Where Silicon Valley creates a product for 10 million people, India asks, how do we build this for a... That shift in perspective changes everything. Policy is catching up too. For the first time, India's government, entrepreneurs, and technocrats are aligned. Schemes like Digital India, Startup India, and Make in India aren't just PR stunts. They are strategic levers shifting the country from execution to innovation. India is building infrastructure at the pace of ambition. Highways, digital payment networks, AI governance frameworks, 5G expansion, data localization policies. This is not the India of 2005. This is the India that wants to build for the world. And that means it wants to lead, not follow. From services to strategy, the old India delivered results from behind the scenes. The new India wants a seat at the table, and it's earning it. Indian venture capital is surging. Domestic capital is now joining global VCs in backing homegrown companies, not just in tech, but in climate, health, defense, space, and education. India's startup ecosystem is now the third largest in the world, and it's not just growing, it's maturing. What does that mean? It means Indian founders aren't building companies to get acquired by Americans, they're building empires to compete with them. That's a whole different game. What this signals globally, the shift from back office to boardroom is about ownership of ideas, of platforms, of power. India is starting to set the agenda in digital policy, in AI ethics, in fintech innovation, in space exploration. It's asking bigger questions and pushing for global conversations to happen on its terms. So if you're still thinking of India as a service hub, you're missing the point. It's not the back office anymore. It's the boardroom. And if you don't see that coming, if you don't start understanding the implications of that transformation, you'll wake up in a world where you're the one taking the call, not making it. Let's get one thing straight. America built the internet. It created the foundations, the infrastructure, the platforms, the tools. It invented Google, Facebook, Amazon. It turned code into culture. And for a long time, it led that digital revolution almost uncontested. But here's what nobody saw coming. India didn't follow the same playbook. It skipped chapters. It leapt over steps. It rewrote the script. India is now building something entirely different. A new version of the internet that isn't about luxury, but necessity. Not about serving the top 10%, but about empowering 1 billion people, many of whom are coming online for the very first time. This isn't evolution. This is a digital leapfrog. What do we mean by leapfrog? It's when you don't crawl through the stages other nations did, you just jump ahead. In America, digital banking evolved over decades. Credit cards, online banking, then mobile wallets. In India, tens of millions went straight from cash to QR codes. No intermediate steps, no plastic, just instant mobile payments. From street vendors to CEOs. This isn't a future vision, it's now. In fact, as of 2024, India processes more digital payments daily than the US, UK, Germany, and France combined. That's not hype, that's data. Why? Because when India builds digital systems, it builds for scale, cost, and simplicity. America built for profit, India builds for survival. And that changes everything. Enter India stack. If America's internet is run by private tech giants, India's is now being shaped by something called the India stack, a collection of public digital infrastructure that could become the model for the rest of the developing world. Let me break it down. Aadhaar, a biometric ID system covering over 1.3 billion people. It's the backbone of identity, used for everything from passports to pensions. UPI, Unified Payments Interface System, that processes over 10 billion transactions every month. DigiLocker, a secure cloud-based document storage system used to store government IDs, certificates, and even academic records. India's answer to Amazon, a decentralized, democratized platform for local businesses. This is a state-engineered digital revolution, but it's not about control. It's about inclusion. In the US, digital innovation is about making life easier for the privileged. In India, it's about making life possible for the underprivileged. That mindset shift is the core advantage of India's leap. Building for the next billion? You've heard of the next billion users? India already has them. And they don't speak English. They don't have laptops. They don't have 5G, but they do have aspirations. And a smartphone. So Indian startups are now designing apps that work offline in regional languages on cheap Android phones. Apps that teach, transact, heal, and empower. India is literally writing the rules for how the internet works when bandwidth is low, wallets are thin, and stakes are high. That's not just innovation, it's reinvention. And the rest of the world is watching. African nations are now modeling their digital identity systems after Aadhaar. Southeast Asian governments are studying UPI to improve their payment networks. Even Western regulators are eyeing on DC as a counterbalance to big tech monopolies. India didn't build a better version of America's internet. It built a different internet, one designed for 1.4 billion users who need solutions, not subscriptions. What this means going forward, the world is entering a new phase. Not just the Internet of Things, but the Internet of everyone. And India is showing us how to build it. The US had the first mover advantage. But India? India has the scale mover advantage. And in a world that's more connected, more mobile, and more populous than ever before, scale wins. So if you think the future of tech still belongs only to Silicon Valley, you're not paying attention. India isn't catching up. India is redefining the game. Startup surge, India's new breed of unicorns are playing by different rules. If you want to understand how a country is preparing to take the lead in global innovation, don't just look at its policies or its infrastructure, look at its startups. Startups are a country's risk takers, its dreamers, its rule breakers. They are the front line of future making. And right now, India's startup ecosystem is on fire, not just in terms of quantity, but in the quality and character of the companies being built. Let's talk numbers first. As of mid-2025, India has over 115 unicorns, startups valued at over $1 billion, 0 cents. That's the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, right after the US and China. But here's the twist. Indian unicorns are not American clones. They are designed for constraint, engineered for mass adoption, and built for the real world, not just app stores. In other words, they're leaner, hungrier, bolder. Why this surge now? It wasn't overnight. The foundation was laid over the last 15 years, with rising internet penetration, a booming youth population, and better access to venture capital. But the true spark came post-2020. COVID-19 acted as a forcing function. Suddenly, everything had to go online: education, commerce, healthcare, finance. India had no choice but to accelerate digital adoption, and the entrepreneurs responded. Today, we're seeing startups tackle deep, systemic problems, not just build the next food delivery app. We're talking about agri-tech startups helping farmers predict crop yields using AI, health tech platforms giving rural India access to real doctors through telemedicine, fintech innovators offering microloans and credit to people with no credit history, edtech firms creating adaptive learning tools in 15+ Indian languages. These aren't copy-paste models from Silicon Valley. They're born from Indian problems solved by Indian minds with potential global relevance. What makes Indian startups different? Let's break it down. Frugal innovation. Indian founders don't get access to the kind of bloated venture capital funding Silicon Valley is used to. So they're forced to build products that work, scale, and profit fast. They don't raise $100 million, 0 cents, to test ideas. They raise $1 million, 0 cents, and build something that works for 10 million people. Hyper-localization. These startups understand that India isn't one market. It's dozens of cultures, languages, and economic realities. So they build for diversity, complexity, and localization from day one. Global ambition. The new Indian founder isn't just thinking about India. They're building with one foot in the local market and the other in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and beyond. Indian startups like Zerodha, Razorpay, Freshworks, and Zepto aren't trying to exit. They're trying to expand. Resilience as a strategy. The Indian startup ecosystem was born in chaos: patchy infrastructure, skeptical investors, talent shortages. This has bred a kind of psychological grit that's hard to compete with. Indian entrepreneurs are used to solving problems with fewer tools, and that mindset gives them an edge globally. Investors are taking notice. The world's top venture capital firms, Sequoia, Accel, Tiger Global, SoftBank, Andreessen Horowitz, are doubling down on India. Why? Because they see something they can't find elsewhere: massive market potential, low customer acquisition costs, high innovation per dollar spent. Even domestic capital is waking up. Family offices, Indian conglomerates, and retired tech veterans are now backing the next wave of founders. That's how you know a system is maturing, when belief becomes local. What's coming next? The next big wave won't be just SaaS or fintech. It'll be climate tech, deep tech, defense tech, and AI built for the global south. India is beginning to specialize, not just scale. And unlike in the past, these startups won't be building for America. They'll be competing with it. Because this new breed of Indian entrepreneur, they don't want to sell their company to Google. They want to be Google. India's startup surge is more than a trend. It's a movement toward ownership, toward leadership, and toward a future where the rules of innovation are no longer set by the West alone. And this time, the underdog isn't just in the race. It's taking the lead. Democracy with data. How India is turning 1.4 billion people into a digital superpower. When you think of a digital superpower, your mind probably jumps to a few usual suspects. The United States with its tech giants, China with its surveillance infrastructure, maybe even the EU with its regulatory muscle. But there's one name that's rewriting the playbook: India. And what makes India different isn't just its size, it's how it's using data ethically, inclusively, and democratively to turn 1.4 billion people into active digital citizens, not just consumers or statistics. Because India's digital revolution isn't top down. It's bottom up. It's not about building more billion-dollar tech companies, though that's happening. It's about making sure every person in the village, the slum, the suburb, the city center has a digital identity, a digital wallet, and a digital future. This is democracy with data. What does that mean? It means India is doing something no other country has managed at this scale, using data as a public good, not just a private asset. Where the West built the internet as a commercial space, India is building digital infrastructure as a civic right. Just like roads, power, or clean water, access to digital tools is being positioned as non-negotiable. And at the heart of this shift is Aadhaar, the world's largest biometric ID system. The power of Aadhaar: over 1.3 billion Indians are registered with Aadhaar. With a fingerprint scan or an iris match, they can open a bank account, get a mobile connection, access government subsidies, file taxes, receive pensions, vote, and more. This isn't just about identification. It's about inclusion. Aadhaar didn't just give people an ID. It gave them an entry point into the digital economy. For many, it was their first step toward visibility in the eyes of the government, the market, and the future. Layering on top, the India stack Aadhaar was just the beginning. Over the past decade, India has quietly built the most comprehensive digital public infrastructure, DPI, in the world. This is what's called the India Stack, a layered system of APIs that enable paperless authentication, seamless digital payments via UPI, secure document storage via DigiLocker, transparent data sharing via account aggregator frameworks. This is a stack that doesn't just connect people, it empowers them. Imagine you're a rickshaw driver in a small town. You don't have a credit score, no paperwork, no formal income. But you've been using UPI to make and receive payments for 2 years. Now a microfinance app plugged into the India stack can see your transaction history and offer you a real loan based on real data. That's not theoretical. That's already happening. Democratizing access, not just innovation. In most of the world, data is held by corporations or locked inside silos. In India, it's being made portable, shareable, and user consent. This means the average citizen can choose to share their financial data, health records, or employment history across platforms securely and selectively to unlock services that were previously out of reach. This puts power back in the hands of the people, not the banks, not the tech companies, not the bureaucracy. It's the most inclusive model of digital governance anywhere on the planet. The global impact India's data model is now being studied and replicated by countries across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Why? Because it works at scale, costs less, and centers the citizen. Western nations are stuck debating data privacy versus innovation. India is proving you can do both with purpose, speed, and trust. India is becoming the world's digital public goods superpower, not by owning everyone's data, but by showing the world how to use it for empowerment rather than exploitation. What this signals India's data revolution isn't just a tech story. It's a human story, one that shows how a democracy, when combined with digital infrastructure and visionary policy, can transform an entire population into a digitally enabled powerhouse. This isn't surveillance capitalism. This isn't authoritarian control. This is democracy at scale, with data as the engine. And as India continues to build this model, it's not just digitizing its population, it's digitizing the future of global leadership. Talent export turns inward, how India's brightest minds are now building at home. For over half a century, India's most brilliant minds followed a familiar path. Top the class, get into IIT or IIM, fly out to Silicon Valley, Harvard, or Wall Street, build a better life somewhere else. India became the world's greatest exporter of brain power. And that brain power went on to shape some of the most important institutions, inventions, and innovations on the planet. But here's what's changing now, and it's a seismic shift. That talent isn't leaving anymore, it's staying. And more importantly, it's returning. This is more than just a reversal of brain drain. This is the beginning of what could be India's greatest strategic advantage, a brain gain explosion. A new generation with a new mindset. Meet the new Indian founder, engineer, investor, or designer. They're not dreaming of moving to Silicon Valley. They're building Bangalore into their own. They're saying, why leave when I can lead from here? They're launching AI startups in Pune, deep tech labs in Hyderabad, blockchain protocols from Chennai, space tech companies in Kerala. And this isn't just emotional patriotism. It's rational, economic, and opportunistic thinking. Because India today isn't the India their parents left. It's a country with 5G connectivity across urban and rural regions, a booming middle class hungry for innovation, government-backed tech infrastructure, a domestic market of 1.4 billion people, global capital knocking at the door. Why leave a gold mine when you're standing on it? The returnees, India's boomerang generation. The story doesn't stop with young graduates. In fact, some of the most exciting innovation in India today is being led by returnees. Indian professionals who spent a decade or two abroad learned the ropes of global systems and are now bringing that knowledge home. And they're not just bringing back experience, they're bringing global best practices, cross-vendor networks, investor confidence, access to international markets. Take a look at the co-founders of India's most ambitious startups, from Cred to Aadhaar Energy, Razorpay to Poly. Many are returnees from Google, MIT, McKinsey, and Stanford, now pouring that elite knowledge into solving local problems. They've seen how the best systems in the world operate, and they're applying that wisdom here in Indian contexts. Why India now? 3 major factors are fueling this internal talent revolution. The opportunity is bigger at home. In the US, you're often building for the top 20% of a saturated market. In India, you're building first ever solutions for hundreds of millions. That's not just growth, that's greenfield. Global remote work normalized geography. The pandemic shattered the idea that innovation only happens in Silicon Valley offices. Now a product team in Gurgaon can be just as global and just as powerful as one in San Francisco. The rise of local capital and ecosystem maturity. India's startup ecosystem has matured. Ecosystems have been matured. There are now accelerators, angel networks, venture funds, IPO paths, and public infrastructure that can sustain long-term innovation without needing to go west. The global world comes to India. Here's the plot twist. As India's talent stays home, global talent is coming in. Western VCs are opening India offices. Foreign engineers and designers are joining Indian startups. Even global product launches are now happening in India first. India is no longer a stepping stone, it's a destination. When OpenAI launches in India, when Apple sets up stores, when Tesla eyes Indian factories, this isn't just about market access, it's about talent proximity. Because the best ideas in AI, crypto, fintech, edtech, and sustainability may now emerge in Mumbai, not Mountain View. What this signals India was once known for sending the best brains abroad. Now it's becoming the place where the world's best minds converge. Because the problems are real, the platforms are ready, and the possibilities are enormous. This isn't just a talent shift, it's a power shift. And this time, the brains aren't leaving. They're building the future from home. Soft power reboot. India's rise isn't just economic, it's cultural. When you think of global superpowers, it's easy to look at military strength, economic dominance, or technological innovation. But in the 21st century, one form of influence is quietly outpacing them all. Soft power. The ability to shape hearts and minds, to influence not with force, but with culture, storytelling, identity, and ideas. And right now, India is going through a soft power renaissance. This isn't just about Bollywood movies or spicy food anymore. This is about India redefining how the world sees it and itself. From cinema to code, music to memes, spirituality to startups, India is exporting itself not just through labor, but through language, leadership, and lived experience. A culture ready for global attention. For decades, India was underestimated on the global cultural stage. It was seen as exotic, spiritual, and sometimes chaotic, but rarely modern and almost never cool. That's changing, fast. Just scroll through Netflix, look at global music charts, scan the headlines about India's AI breakthroughs, space missions, or digital innovations. You'll notice a pattern. India isn't trying to imitate Western culture anymore. It's exporting its own. Think about it. RR didn't just break box office records. It shattered the West's assumptions about Indian cinema. Indian origin creators like Tan France, Mindy Kaling, Lily Singh, and Hassan Minhaj have become household names worldwide. Yoga, once a niche practice, is now a multi-billion-dollar global industry rooted in Indian philosophy. Indian streetwear, desi pop, and festival culture are going global. From Soho to Seoul, India is no longer just participating in global culture, it's shaping it. From back office to creative frontline, for decades, India was seen as the world's IT back office, smart, technical, affordable. But what was missing was perception power, cultural capital. Now, India isn't just coding apps, it's designing the user experience. It's building brands, not just writing back-end logic. Indian companies like Tata, Infosys, Zomato, Byju's, and Nykaa aren't just tech companies. They are cultural companies, shaping lifestyle, education, fashion, and food habits. More than that, Indian entrepreneurs are bringing an Indian lens to global problems. With cultural nuance, emotional intelligence, and storytelling savvy, diaspora supercharge. Let's not forget the diaspora factor. Over 32 million people of Indian origin live outside India. And they are no longer just doctors, engineers, or quiet achievers. They are CEOs of Google, Microsoft, Adobe, and IBM. They are Oscar winners, TED speakers, startup unicorn founders, and cultural influencers. The diaspora is now acting as amplifiers of Indian soft power. Not only are they building bridges, they're reshaping narratives. They're proving that you can be fully Indian and fully global at the same time. Digital storytelling at scale. Here's the real game changer. India's digital infrastructure isn't just about fintech or ID systems. It's also enabling a creative explosion. Millions of young Indians are now producing music, films, memes, short videos, podcasts, essays, comics, and courses in multiple languages and global format. And for the first time, They're not waiting for permission from Bollywood New York publishers or LA talent agents. They're publishing directly to the world on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Substack, and beyond. India is becoming the greatest storytelling nation on earth, and the world is finally ready to listen. Soft power meets confidence. Perhaps the most powerful shift of all is confidence. Young Indians no longer look westward for validation. They're saying, why pitch to Hollywood when we can make our own blockbuster? Why sell ourselves short when we are the market, the voice, and the future? This quiet confidence is being felt in global art and fashion shows, international startup pitches, crossbench pitches, collaborations, awards, speaking stages, and tech forums. India is no longer asking for a seat at the table. It's building its own table and inviting the world. What this signals, India's rise is not just in GDP growth or unicorn creation. It's in how it's being perceived and how it perceives itself. In the past, soft power meant exporting yoga and Bollywood. Today, it's about ideas, values, and stories rooted in an ancient civilization, but delivered through a modern global voice. India isn't just rising, it's resonating. And in a world where influence increasingly travels through algorithms and attention, that might be the most powerful edge of all.